creating that brand voice, creating all the emotion that comes with it, that community aspect of it, defining all that first before you can create these things. Because if you create these first, you can make them look good, right? You find the right fonts, the right colors, the right graphics. And it's like, man, that's a sexy piece. But if the brand voice is not in it, that was established first, it's a waste of time and a waste of money.
Welcome to the Love Your Brand podcast. If you're looking for real conversations with real people, you're the right place. Let's go!
Mic check, mic check.
Mic check in the house. Audio levels.
Audio looks good. Audio looks good. Audio is rolling. Cameras are rolling. Rolling.
Here we go.
Side yard, baby.
In the side yard of Rock Thrill.
Now, before we get started, we just need to let you know about our show dates. October 16th, Nashville, Tennessee. October 28th, Roanoke, Virginia.
I didn't know Theo Vaughn was in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, Theo Vaughn. This past weekend. You watch his podcast?
Yeah,
Theo?
I did.
You did?
I did.
Does that mean you no longer do?
Man, this thing is blowing my curtain.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay, it's all good.
Remember, we invite people on a journey on this podcast. This time we're opening the windows, get a little natural light in here.
So a special thank you to our previous guest, Miss Belle Rape.
Dude, that was a fun episode with her.
That was a blast.
She's a rock star.
So you need to check her out. Definitely. She brings the A game, the style.
That's it. This is episode 9 right now, right?
I believe so.
So go check out episode 8 with Belle. If you don't know who Belle is, you haven't seen any of our teaser videos about episode 8, she is a branding guru. She focuses on people's wardrobe and attire and how it fits in and ties into their personal brand. And she has a wealth of experience in corporate world as well as entrepreneurship. And she's a firecracker. So we had some good laughs, a lot of nuggets, and we are going to have her back on the podcast for sure to talk about some stuff. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. So let's see, this is going to be a quickie. What do we want to chat about today?
No, I want you to be in your mic a little closer. It's hard for me to hear you.
I can't look at you.
I know. You can move that. I was thinking about, when you go online, Elon Musk is one of those people. Was he currently the world's richest man? Elon. And a couple months ago, he rebranded Twitter. That whole story, it just kind of is interesting. Is interesting the right word? So you have this platform and so many social media platforms, right? Yeah, I never really used Twitter. And then Elon comes around and he says, I'm going to buy Twitter. What was it? 40 million or 40 billion? It was billion, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't much.
Yeah, weekend pay. And went back and forth, and people were like, is he really going to buy it? Is he not? Then it fell through. Then he ended up acquiring Twitter. And on day one, got rid of a ton of employees because they didn't align with what he was about. And then after that, he comes out and he completely changes the name of Twitter, right? And it goes to X. I like the brand X. Have you seen it, like the logo?
I have.
There's not too many ways you can change the letter X, but it's cool. And as I was thinking further about that, a lot of companies that come our way, or a lot of companies, they go through a rebranding process, right? They start off, they create their brand, and you get a decade down the road and they say, I need to rebrand because it doesn't align with our values. And so Elon comes in and kind of discreetly just changes it. It's not a big push about it. It's more people that are promoting it and saying the change from Twitter to X. And with that, it did a couple things, because some people, every brand, you either have a positive or a negative or an indifferent thought about them. So a lot of people, when they thought about Twitter and where it was, they liked Twitter. And then when Elon Musk acquires it, they don't like it anymore because they don't like Elon, or vice versa. People that did not like Twitter, and then Elon took it, and now they did like Twitter. And so it just shows the power of the person that's behind the brand, right? It's not really about Twitter or X. Now it's about Elon Musk. He has a personal brand, but Twitter or X is one of his businesses as well. But they're synonymous. What you think of Elon is going to be how you perceive X or Twitter, and how you perceive X or Twitter is how you perceive Elon. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's the same. We've talked about it before. People think of TalenAlexander, they know Jason Ramsey. People think of Jason Ramsey, they know TalenAlexander. And so it doesn't matter how you show up in the other one, you're going to be perceived that way because your personal brand and your business brand work together.
Yeah, they're synonymous, right?
Synonymous. It's a fun word.
And a lot of people think it's either or, personal branding versus like corporate branding, but like you always say, people buy and connect with emotion, right?
What do I say? Finish that whole quote.
I don't know.
Come on.
I might kill it. People buy with emotion, and justify with logic.
There you go. People buy with emotion, justify with logic.
So X just recently just signed a deal with Paris Hilton to do some live shopping.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, 6 minutes ago. Just saw it. But by the time this comes out, it'll be probably 6 weeks ago. But man, but he is just constantly innovating.
Right.
I see this platform just continue to grow and outshine a lot of others. He will constantly have a lot of haters, but just you cannot fault or say anything about his experience and just how he takes things and just molds them and grows them. And man, that dude is a genius.
Can we talk politics for a second? I'll keep it really low level.
Got to keep it.
I won't go high level of politics.
You can't do that too much.
So I'm just going to communicate what's been said, what the news says. So it's just repeating what's there.
Which news?
Facts. True story. So Elon comes in and he says that this platform, Twitter, there's some shady stuff that's going on the back end. And, with the social media platforms, as they're built, they have the ability, and I mean, this is how they're created, for how their reach goes. They're not social media platforms. They're businesses. They make a lot of money. They're running the world right now. And so there was like somebody had a big following that was going to test and see how broken the system was, or if the system was in fact broken. And so he wrote a post, and it was basically pro Joe Biden. Okay. It just said something positive about Joe Biden. And it showed within an hour, this is how many people it reached, and this was the engagement, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing wrong with that. And then he wrote at the exact same time, on the exact same day, the same text, but instead of saying Joe Biden, he put Donald Trump, just a name. And then he showed the same analytics. So you're tracking completely right beside each other. And one of those, the reach was astronomically further than the other.
Now, was this right when he took it over?
This was yeah, exactly. And so this was, or actually, I think this was probably 4 to 6 months ago. And so the point with all that was to show that it appears that it had been manipulated within the algorithm, that if you post a certain type of content, we're going to push it to a bigger reach. If you post a certain type of content over here that we don't like, we're not going to give you the reach as far as possible. Which, I mean, there's a lot of problems with that if that's truly what happened, to where if our First Amendment right is freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, freedom of all these things. That did not really, freedom of speech was getting taken away there.
And I think that's why Elon is being attacked so heavily.
Right.
Because now it's equal playing field. It truly is a freedom of speech, a freedom
platform.
It's a platform that's built for individuals and built for dialogue and different thoughts and different beliefs. And, it's healthy for people with different beliefs and different perspectives to be able to have conversations and not hold one over, with any bias, not give one more growth versus another one.
Yeah.
By nature, it should be, good marketing practices. Implementation is just like SEO. You should, there should be a professional way to amplify your visibility, right? But that should be equal playing field, no matter what you're trying to amplify. Unless you're just saying this platform is just for this, unless it's a specialty platform, right? Unless it's out and open, right? We're only going to showcase this kind of content. But when you say, hey, we treat everybody the same, but don't, you're just lying to the public. So
right.
It's truly shady. So he is under a microscope because out of all of them, there's no there's a few, but there's all the social media platforms, really, they have biased opinions right now.
Well, look,
unfortunately.
When fact checkers came on, right? And so if you and I choose to post something, there's these independent fact checkers that are determining content you're posting is true or not. Who determines that kind of a thing? But so the point of what I'm talking about with Elon Musk is not to get political. It was just an example. And I think Elon, what I think he's doing right, one thing that he's doing that is helping his brand so much is that he is not wishy-washy on where he stands on anything. It is crystal clear this is what he stands for. This is what he does. You see the post that he puts on X platform. And as his brand, what's that?
I love his post.
I love his post. And I mean, you have the world's richest human currently, I believe, and he's in the trenches with people like you and I. He's commenting on some of these people's posts, and he asks questions. And so my point with all that is that so many brands, they don't want to offend people. So many brands, they're afraid if they speak their core values that somebody's going to come against them and be like, hey, you stink, kind of a thing. And we're so scared as a culture of what other people think. And so Elon Musk, what he's doing right is he's not scared of what anybody thinks. He posts it, and then he knows people that are aligned with him or people that are not aligned with him. And I think we talk about this often, but it's an important point with your brand is that speak what you stand for and let that be the anchor of your business, the anchor of your brand, and that will attract the audience that is aligned that you want to go after anyway.
Yeah, and that's the same with even with your services and what you offer. Try to be precise. You can't be everything to everyone.
Oh, bingo. Unless you're in the toilet paper business.
Yeah, that's
try to serve everyone, you serve no one.
There you go.
Unless you're in the toilet paper business. But you're right.
And I'm just trying to log in. Keep talking. I want to see something here. Except the toilet paper business.
Put me on the spot.
Put you on the fly.
Well, hey, you remember. So, I mean, sometimes when you put me on the spot, I can't speak. I get your name messed up. I tried to say on the spot. I said on the fly.
Fly on the wall.
Man, fly on the wall. Pie in the what?
Pie in the what are you talking about?
Y'all, if y'all haven't, I love Family Feud. That show cracks me up. It's clean, for the most part. Some people say some crazy things, but they had Snoop Dogg on there. Jason and I crack up about this episode. And he's in the final, whatever that last segment of the show is. He gets Snoop Dogg and he says, fill in the blank. Pie in the blank. Snoop Dogg says, horse. And then you have Steve Harvey that he can barely keep his composure to ask the next questions. And, in that finale, once you get to 200 points, you win the game. You don't have to go to the next question. So as they're going through and Steve Harvey says, man, I sure as heck hope we get here because I want to know what the heck a pie and a horse is. He starts talking about Snoop Dogg, his lifestyle choices. And when you've had lifestyle choices like Snoop Dogg, you kind of say some answers like this. And so I remember the question right before that, they get to 199 points. So they're 1 point off from winning. So Steve Harvey's celebrating. He's like, yeah, now we get to find out what pie and the horse is. We just need one person to agree with Snoop Dogg, pie and a horse. It gets 0. How often do we share that GIF back and forth? Actually, the whole video. Should we drop a link?
You ought to drop a link. Actually, just play that little clip. That would be freaking awesome. Let everybody just be
amazing. Pie and the
know
horse.
What we're talking about.
Fill in the blank. Pie in the what?
Horse.
Fill in the blank. Pie in the what the hell did you say? What? I need one other person in this world who, for some reason, has found a pie stuck up inside a horse, cut it and served it to the people. Survey says, yes.
I love it.
Elon says, I hope that even my worst critics remain on Twitter because that's what free speech means.
Read that again.
I hope that even my worst critics remain on Twitter because that is what free speech means.
Come on.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting? That ruffles a lot of people's feathers. But then you got the other side that are like, yes, absolutely.
Now I'm going to buy all the McDonald's and fix all the ice cream machines. Man, this dude is on fire.
He said that? Fix all the ice cream machines. But he'll do it. He'll do it.
Comedy is now legal on Twitter. Go figure. The bird is freed. Boom. This is killing me. I love this stuff.
When would you advise a company that they need a rebrand?
So rebrand is a strong word. Rebrand, pivot the brand strategy. Rebrand means, something different to a lot of people. Is that coming up with a new logo type, logos, Greek, right? For a logo, a new symbol, a new avatar, new campaigns, new visuals. That's a big word. And I don't think a lot of people understand that word. They think it's a checklist. Oh, I want to rebrand. Oh, right. That means I want a new logo, a new color schema, and a new website. And, we want a fresh look, an updated look. I think you got to step back and not even, rebrand shouldn't even be in the conversation. You should be working on your brand strategy constant 24/7. It's a never ending cycle, right? So you should be rebranding constantly. And when I say rebranding, you should be re-strategizing, reformulating your position, trying new campaigns, trying new visuals. Now, granted, you've got to have your foundation, your core, and that may even change. Companies got to start somewhere, and they go through growth just like we do as individuals, right? And they change, and they level up, and they get more experience, and they get more skills, and they find niches, and they find new goals, and are able to make new impacts. So if we're saying, rebrand from, if it's a company that's just kind of been doing the same song and dance, for the last 3 to 5 years, and it's time for a change. Now, 9 times out of 10, this same old company hasn't did anything around their brand strategy anyway. So I wouldn't even call it a rebrand. I would call it, now you're starting to think about brand strategy, right? They look at branding or rebrands like we need this checklist. And then they go into marketing mode, right? Marketing is about converting and focusing on sales. And how do we sell? How do we push out content to convert? Push. Branding is about pulling. How do you create a brand and cultivate this emotion, this legacy, this dream, this vision that people are going to buy into, that you're going to take a space in their head, right? This lovely space in their head space, and they're going to gravitate towards you. You're going to pull them in. Now that takes time.
Yeah.
That takes a long time. That takes continuity, consistency, and they've got to, be able to identify with you as a human being. It's got to be a personal connection, right? Because they're going to build your brand, right? A lot of companies, they don't get to work with brands. I wouldn't even I'd say half the companies we work with aren't brands. They're just businesses with logos.
Ooh, man.
Right? I mean, that's because they're all about market, ROI, dollars. At the end of the day, who do you got to make happy? The shareholders. And what do they care about? It's the figures, the dollars.
So the brand always has to be developed before any marketing should ever be deployed.
The very first thing, before you even, even think about, even before you start down a logo path, a tagline, you should be creating your brand by understanding what the thought process someone is going to have when they think about you. What are you what's the headspace going to look like when they think about who you are, who your company is, what you're about? Are they going to think you're trustworthy, empathetic, bold, strong, tech, service oriented, always available, capable? What are they going to envision when they see you? Like, and you can even think of other brands, right? Say, are they going to look at us like this brand? I mean, you can use comparisons early on, because honestly, it's all testing. It's constant testing.
That's right.
I was telling you about the story I heard about this guy who developed packages for software. Remember back in the days when CompUSA was around?
There was no cloud yet.
No cloud. I mean, you would go into the store and buy,
physical copy. Our computers had CD-ROMs.
Yeah, TurboTax or whatever, you name it. So he got a gig at Apple, and he designed like 20 packages, printed them out, put them on little cardboard, product pieces. Went to the room, to the pitch room, threw them on the table, and said, all right, y'all, play with them. And all the C-suite picked them up, turned them around. Ooh, ooh. They were all just mesmerized. And it was like 15 people just talking about what they liked on each box. Oh, I like this. Oh, I like this. I like this. And he said in any meeting, in any pitch, it's not about trying to sell them or pitch them an idea, because everything has to be tested. It's about starting a conversation, right? Yeah. And understanding this conversation is really, guys, you can like all this. You can think this is it. You can think this is the direction. I could tell you this is the direction, but I'd be lying to you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the top 3. I'm going to send a team into CompUSA, and we're going to actually have mini focus groups. and ask consumers. Now, not the people that's selling the product, because they don't know anything. I mean, he was like, man, half the time they didn't even know what they were selling, right? Their ideas were completely irrelevant and always off mark from the consumers. So he got that data. He would show 3 or 4 ideas to actual consumers and say, what do you like about this one? Would you buy this one? They would say, oh, I like it. I like this. I like that. Then they would take that idea, flush it out, and that's what they would go to market with, right? That's brand strategy.
Which is the right strategy.
But nobody in today's market, it's all about agile, speed to market. You know, everybody wants to pay this money for this checklist, go to market, get that ROI, make a lot of money, you know, be remote, retire. You know, it's the American dream, right?
And there is a checklist of items that go into a brand.
Definitely.
And so you have all those assets and deliverables that come, but everything you're sharing, creating that brand voice, creating all the emotion that comes with it, you know, that community aspect of it, defining all that first before you can create these things. Because if you create these first, you can make them look good, right? You find the right fonts, the right colors, the right graphics. And it's like, man, that's a sexy piece. But if the brand voice is not in it, that was established first, it's a waste of time and a waste of money.
Now it needs to play well with the marketing, right? It's
100%.
There's an alignment, but a lot of companies and businesses, they try to lean so heavy in marketing. They find something that works, then they beat it to death. Then when it stops working, they're like, oh no, what do? We need to market something else. We need to market something else. We need to market something else.
But then it's shiny object syndrome.
Yes.
To where with marketing, now AI and technology changing daily, and there's something new you can do. Instead of leaving the brand over here or like just getting left in the dust where it needs to focus and attention, you're over here, well, here's the next thing. If we just do this, if we just do this, instead of fixing the core root problem over here. So I think like with my question to you was, when do you see like the need for a rebrand? And what I heard you say through that essentially is more, the rebrand is more the destination. The journey instead of the destination.
Exactly.
And so you don't think, all right, a rebrand, we're going to get here. It's what you're constantly doing, how you're constantly evolving, how you constantly change. And there's times where new logos are created. Mm-hmm. Like I think it was this past year, Pepsi did a rebrand, and I saw this workflow, this chart of like 10 slides of how the agency went through it. And it was over $1 million rebrand, which is unreal. I've never charged $1 million for a rebrand. Maybe I'm undercharging. But to see what they produced was like, you got all that for $1 million? Or you only got that for $1 million? But I mean, they went into a ton of elements of, the psychology of color, typography, all these elements of it, kind of a thing. But so there are times where companies need a rebrand, and which, as we started this episode today, talk about Elon Musk, to where you have Twitter, and there's a brand around Twitter and how people perceive Twitter. Now you have X, and there's a brand around X and how people perceive X. And Elon Musk saw the problem if he would have stayed in Twitter. And so instead, he realized the importance of the rebrand and the efforts that he's doing on this process to get people to join the platform or to stay. Like you just read that quote a second ago. He even wants the critics to stay on there.
And you notice he didn't do it right off the bat, right? It's going to be a process. Like,
right.
You knew it was coming. You knew there was going to be a new logo type, a new mark. There were going to be new associated brand elements, right? You see this brand strategy on the wall, right? It's like, this is going to be your resource to voice your opinion. And
right.
You're going to get just the same amount of reach as this other person that has a different opinion. That's his story he's telling.
Right.
And so all the writing was on the wall. The rebrand, is continuous. As you see, he changed the mark, but it's going to be an evolutionary process, a continued process. That's why every business needs to constantly have a brand officer, brand strategy, an agency, a consultant that's never ending. That they're constantly working with the customers and getting their feedback and really understanding how they're being perceived by the marketplace, because that is ultimately your brand. You know, you go in a year in, 2 years in, 5 years in, and you realize your customers perceive a different brand entity than you and all your associates and your board. You're like, we don't even know who we are. We're not, I mean, we're saying this thing, but everybody thinks we're this thing. Our brand is totally off. It was a shift. We're not in line with, you know, or worse, they've got a lot of open pockets where they can take more market share because they're not doing the proper brand strategy, the proper focus groups, proper research, where, you know, their loyal customers, you know, there's room to grow, but they're not listening. You know, they're going against the grain.
Yeah.
Rather than with the grain. Right?
Yes, good. I, you know, my background was in the corporate world, and that's out of college, went straight into a corporate job, and it was a German-based company. So I spent, 10 to 12 years in this environment, and our product management team, our research and development team, this was high technology type of equipment that was being produced and softwares, and it was phenomenal stuff. But they typically, for the longest time, the product managers and project managers would develop all this stuff and then give us these products. These are multiple hundred thousands of dollars pieces of equipment. And so it's not a cheap product, for people to buy. And when I was there, they would send us a product and we would pretty much have to make it work with our market and try to sell it to our market. And there was so many times, prospects were talking to them. They're like, yeah, but this software doesn't work the way I need it. This software, you need to do this. This software, you need to do that. And it was like the end of my career when I would travel to Germany, we would start bringing our key accounts from the United States market and say, let them tell you exactly what they need. And so we brought these 5-10, business owners over there, and they sat with the project managers, and the product managers are creating it and they're walking them through. And you have the actual people that are going to be using the product that are saying, this needs to be this, this needs to be this. This needs to be this. And when they took the feedback from the audience, more like a focus group of what you're talking about, then when they produced that software and these products and launched to the market, it hit exactly what they needed, and exactly what they wanted. Because it's like, if we as a brand or a business, if we know this is what we're good at, this is our sweet spot, let's say as an agency, we know we're good with online visibility and helping you stand out and increase your visibility and things like that. So what does our audience need? So we have to go to the market and say, all right, they know what we're capable of as an agency, but they're going to dictate and guide if we include them in that process to show them or to create solutions that help them with the problems that they're experiencing. If we think over here all day long, we can leverage AI or we can do this with social, but they don't need it over there. They don't care. And we're just wasting our time on stuff that our audience really does not need.
And take it a step further as a brand agency, right? When it comes to brand strategy, it never hurts to take a step back when you're looking at a growth plan or scaling. And, we like to take a step back and say, well, what are your avatars? Who are you serving? Yeah. Right?
Marketing 101.
Yeah, they're serving, say, three groups of people. And then we're like, okay, well, what's your profit on this group of people? It's killer profit. It's awesome. Okay. Well, how much time does it take for you to, to service them? How much support do you give them? Oh man, it takes a lot of support. Well, okay. Well, go ahead and knock that off your profit. Knock this. Come to find out, their biggest market, they're making the less profit on. So they're still marketing to them. So then we're like, well, you want to do brand visibility on X, but it produces less profit. So why don't we focus it over here to your other service where you're making the most profit, and then you could scale that, right?
Right.
So we try not to go in blindly. That's why we ask so many questions. Sometimes I remember we had a meeting, and I felt like the guy almost got a little upset because we were wanting to know this information. Almost like, well, why would you want to know that information? Like, we just want you to do this service.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, okay, this might not be a good fit because he obviously knows it all already and just thinks that if we just implement this, everything's going to be gravy. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. I find that, those type of personalities, we've had difficulties in the past, right? It's always good to have a fresh set of eyes and someone else look at your organization, at your business process even. If we can come in and save your company, 40, 50 hours a week, maybe even reduce your payload to some of your employees by integrating maybe some of the latest AI integrations, and take them and put them on things that are more important, that generate more revenue to your business. So that's a part of brand strategy. That's a consultative service that encompasses brand strategy. Brand strategy is linked to every key component in your organization, every KPI, every dollar. And it's a lot of companies just don't get that. It's a direct reflection of how much revenue they generate is their brand strategy.
I love working with clients that don't have a business or a brand yet, and we get to start from the beginning.
So fun.
Because fun. These are how the greatest products, look at what we're filming on today, iPhones and these Samsung Android devices and all this stuff. That started with a vision. And now each evolution of a product just blows your mind, but it started with a vision. And then a brand was created around it, and it tapped into an emotion to where you can watch a commercial or hear a commercial, and it can bring you to almost tears. It can almost bring you to excitement to want to go out and win the day. Like, the work that's done in these brands is incredible. And so when we get to work with a partner and they're like, hey, this is my crazy dream, this is my vision, this is where I want to go, this is the impact I want to make. And we get to sit with them and just let them vomit everything in their head and put the pieces together and build that for them, and then envelop all the parts that come with that brand and define that brand strategy. Like, that's such a fun experience. And it's cool that, we invite our partners into that whole process. And I'm thinking of one of our clients specifically, like with the clothing line, and how much fun they're having through this process, because they know what they're not good at. They know, all right, I have the vision, I know what I want to do, but I have no clue how to make that happen, which is why they came our way and why we're partnering together. And as we listen to them and we start putting these things together and delivering them to them and getting their feedback and going the back and forth, you see the excitement, happening with them. They're getting so excited for something that was just an idea months ago or years ago or decades ago, and they're seeing it start to come together. And working with a client from the very beginning is just such a fun process.
Yeah, it's amazing. We get to enjoy doing what we love to do and creating something from thin air. It's just it's the most fulfilling possible way that we can live, man. That's creativity.
Our goal, like if we had a goal when somebody partners with us, it's to love your brand, right? You're on the Love Your Brand podcast, and that's the whole goal. If you don't love your brand, what are you doing? Right? Life is short. So if you could give one piece, one nugget for people, like for people listening, let's say there's businesses out there and they're like, well, how do I know how relevant my brand is? Like, let's almost say online visibility, am I doing things right? Is my message right? Like, how would you tell somebody what to do to figure that out?
Well, I would say, if you're on your own, you can do a few litmus tests. reach out, do a few surveys, talk to your customers, get a feel of where you're excelling, where you're missing the mark.
That's good.
Right. And here's a nugget, and people I think are sometimes worried about doing that. But, this guy told me years ago, 20 years ago, he was like, Jason, whatever you think you're going to make this year, he said, go ahead and take 20% off. He said, because you're going to have clients that you can't make happy. You're going to have people that will leave, that will just be crazy for no reason, that, every excuse under the sun, right? And people take that so personally, right? I've had it where, clients just fell off the radar and you're just like, dang, what happened to them, right? I don't know. And yeah, some of them may owe you money, and what do you do? A lot of times I just count it as that 20%.
Yeah, it's good.
That's life, right?
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. So people get in this mindset to where I've got to make everybody happy. And they take it personally. And it almost ruins your passion. It ruins your creativity. It ruins your drive, because the whole reason we're in this business is to help others fulfill their dreams and grow their business and grow their mission and grow their impact, right? And they get so discouraged when a client is like, oh my God, your service didn't meet to my expectation. You get a 1-star or whatever. I'm not paying you, or, I have issues with A, B, and C. And,
right.
If it's one nugget, it's like, guys, just keep moving, because that's going to happen no matter what. No matter what you do, you will end up working yourself to the bone, trying to make them happy, trying to make everybody happy. And it's just not reality, right?
That's right.
Every service business, every business in general. That guy told me that. Every relationship.
Personal relationships.
Yeah. Just crazies. Hey, I might have been one of the crazies. Who knows?
A little bit crazy.
But yeah, 20%. He told me that, and I'd be doggone it. Every year, I'm like, okay.
You can look back now and you can see it.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
So I see that when we engage with companies and they have projections and goals and whatnot, and you drop that little caveat and they're just kind of taken back a little bit. Like, what? No, not us. Now there's things that you can do to minimize that, and a lot of times it could be your fault. But it's funny. It's like we always say we're just people talking to people, right? We try to establish relationships to where people can voice their opinions, just like on Twitter, right?
X.
Just like on Twitter, X. X Twitter. Like, we want relationships to where people can come to us and say, hey, we really don't like the communication. It's just you're not communicating enough for us. I know originally we said it was okay, but now we feel like we need more communication, right? Great. That's more consulting. That's unfortunately, that's going to be more cost involved. Well, no, that's not fair. Okay, great. Well, it might be easier if we part ways, right?
Right.
But that open dialogue is very important to have.
Yeah, it's huge.
A lot of people don't like confronting those conversations, especially when it comes to money, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you handle that? And I always say,
there was a time where I was happier losing the money than having to have the conversation about the money. Like avoidance, let's sweep it under the rug. I'll take a hit for this. I just don't want to have the conversation about it. And there was some healing that had to happen with me with some stuff. But
yeah, there's been a handful of times where it was like, I may do something more about this, just because it was more, I didn't take it personally, I just thought that I didn't want it to happen to someone else. So if I did do something, then hopefully it would help someone in the future. I always try to come at it from a way to where it's not vindictive or where it comes from a personal place of, just anger, right? You got to let that settle a lot. Yeah, a lot, man. 20 years in doing this, I can't.
Right.
Man, I've got stories. I've got 4 or 5 beer stories for each one that can have you sitting here all day. You wouldn't believe the things that I've seen.
Oh, I would. I would.
Everything from, companies you wouldn't believe. I mean, yeah. Crazy, man. Crazy world. But I don't know how we got on that subject.
Well, my question was, what nugget would you give? And so you gave some nuggets.
Yeah, I gave a few.
But I mean, one of those, what you shared, ask your audience. When I work with clients, it's the same thing. When they say, what should we launch, or what do we do well, or anything, it's like, ask your best clients. Take the time, take your 5 to 10 best clients and ask them, what do we do really well? Be vulnerable. What do we really need to improve at? And get their honest feedback, because you ask your best clients because they're going to be honest with you. They're going to say, Jason, you do really well at this, but then you drop off. I don't hear from you, or whatever it is. And the more people you talk to, you'll start seeing a theme and you'll start seeing a pattern. You're not going to see 20 different things that people are saying you don't do well. You're going to see 1 or 2 things. Hey, there's a lack of communication, missing the mark on this, whatever it is. So then the 1 or 2 areas to hone in on and to improve. And if you can improve those things, I always tell people, if you can anticipate the questions that people are going to ask you and answer them before they ask you, it's going to take away so many objections that people have about doing business with you, because they have nothing to ask you because you're answering all of them ahead of time. And all you have to do is simply to call somebody and say, hey, could you take 10, 15 minutes of your time and answer a few questions for me? I want to make sure that we serve you really well. We appreciate you as a partner and the relationship that we have, and your feedback is valuable to me. Nobody will turn that away, and it's going to give you gold to help you on this rebranding process, what you're talking about, of not the destination, of that journey, and how to constantly evolve and rebrand to serve your clients best.
Yeah, and it will also help your brand strategy, of course, to reposition, right? You might learn that, hey, we just don't mesh well with this kind of entity, right? It could be lawyers. It could be whatever. It could be engineers. I'm just throwing out randos here.
Absolutely.
Financial advisors. I'm just making them up. But each one of them have different personas and need different kinds of service, right? And you can't be everything to everyone.
That's right.
So yeah, and that's what we're constantly doing. Even us, we're constantly building that database of people that could probably utilize someone else and be benefiting more from someone else. And we try to be upfront. Like, man, you really sound like you need to hire somebody full time. You want to micromanage like that? You need to hire a team, brother.
Right. Because what we're going to get into.
Yeah.
If we're that person. I mean, there's a balance there. We all want to get the biggest bang for our buck. If I'm spending on personnel, whether a third party, individual, contractor, an agency, or hiring a W-2 employee, I want to get the most out of that person. And so that's valid, but so often we have some client relationships everywhere, everybody does, to where people try to abuse that. And how much can I milk this for? How much can I get out of this? And those are just unhealthy relationships. And in our personal lives, we don't want toxic relationships. We don't want unhealthy relationships. We do the work. We do personal development and counseling and therapy so that we can be our best for the most important relationships in our life. And the same thing needs to happen in our business. You know, we don't have to take everybody on and have stress-filled days of working with bad clients. We need to understand these are who we want to work with, and these are who we work really well with, and just hone in on those relationships. Don't take every client because it's not worth it.
Not worth it. Not worth it. And constantly, I think I've always said this, try to constantly learn something new. Me, myself, I'm a fixer. So I try to learn something new when it comes to fixing things, like anything from replacing the element from a stove, learning the wiring, to fixing my car, right? But that constant evolution of learning something new, you might want to go take voice lessons, take guitar lessons, learn something new. And that will stretch you and help your growth also in your business, help you see things from another lens in your business. Kind of, it's like getting reps in, right? Creative reps in to strengthen your vision.
Right on, brother. Well,
awesome.
I want to thank Elon Musk for giving us some talking points today. There's a lot you can learn from people like that. You know, there's free information readily available everywhere. If you look at the big brands, the big people that are doing things right, just watch what they're doing. See what works and what doesn't work, because we can learn from them.
And who knows? You may hear Elon here on this podcast.
Elon, you listening? You listening? We need you.
Welcome to the side.
I think he'd like it. I think he'd like it here.
He's got a good vibe.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us on the Love Your Brand podcast, episode 9, right?
Episode 9. If you're interested in joining us for a conversation, we're just people talking to people. Check out our website or DM us, and we will send you information to apply.
That's right.
And we would love to have you on.
Yeah, and actually in the show notes, there's a link for TalenAlexander.com/podcast, and you can go there if you want to come on, join us, have a story to tell, want to share. Fill out a contact form. Let us know what topics you're interested in to share with our community. We'd love to chat with you.
Appreciate it.
Bye, guys. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening and joining us on the Love Your Brand podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode, and remember, share the love.